Hello and welcome. Take a moment before we begin, because what you are about to hear is not an explanation of the universe, but an alternative way of looking at it. We are taught from an early age that the universe is a passive backdrop, an endless, silent expanse where matter drifts randomly, and meaning is something humans project onto the void. Yet this comforting simplicity begins to fracture the deeper we look. When astronomers chart the large-scale structure of space, what emerges is not chaos, but order, on a scale almost too large to comprehend. Filaments of galaxies stretching across billions of light-years, forming vast interconnected systems that resemble networks rather than accidents. Officially, these structures are explained through gravity and dark matter, but alternative interpretations suggest that gravity may be following something already there, invisible frameworks embedded into space itself. In this view, the universe is not assembling itself freely, but growing along predefined routes, like a city expanding around roads that existed long before the buildings. Stars, traditionally described as temporary furnaces burning through fuel until extinction, begin to look less like isolated events and more like long-term stabilizers, anchoring regions of space, regulating energy flow, and maintaining equilibrium within these massive structures. Their light, often dismissed as simple radiation, shows subtle variations over time, patterns so faint that they vanish into statistical noise, unless one assumes they are not noise at all. Black holes, perhaps the most misunderstood phenomena in modern science, are usually framed as cosmic disasters, places where physics breaks down and information is lost. Yet an alternative perspective sees them as necessary functions, not failures, operating as sinks where excess complexity is removed so that the larger system can remain coherent. Rather than destroying reality, they may preserve it, quietly pruning instability where it grows too dense. Dark matter, the invisible substance said to outweigh everything we can see, has never been directly observed, only inferred, and this absence has led some to question whether it exists as matter at all. Instead, it may represent pressure, influence, or displacement caused by structures that do not fully belong to our universe, overlapping realities that brush against ours without ever fully intersecting. If this is true, then what we call empty space is anything but empty, filled with layers of existence that remain inaccessible not because they are distant, but because they operate under different rules. Time itself becomes uncertain under this framework. No longer a universal constant ticking forward uniformly, but a variable process that stretches, compresses, and stabilizes depending on location and scale. On cosmic timescales, cause and effect may blur, allowing systems to influence their own past states in subtle, indirect ways. This leads to one of the most controversial ideas of all, that the universe may not be unfolding for the first time. It may be iterative, refining itself through successive cycles, preserving what works and discarding what leads to collapse. The laws of physics we rely on may not be eternal truths, but surviving configurations, conditions that proved stable enough to persist. In such a universe, life is no longer a statistical miracle, but an expected outcome, emerging wherever complexity is allowed to accumulate without being erased. Conscious observers, then, are not irrelevant spectators, but active components, adding layers of feedback simply by existing, measuring, and interacting. This does not imply awareness or intention on the universe's part, but something more unsettling. Large-scale self-regulation, slow and impersonal, operating far beyond human perception. Changes happen over millions of years, adjustments so gradual they feel indistinguishable from permanence. Yet their effects shape galaxies, stars, and the conditions that make life possible. What we interpret as randomness may be order viewed from too close, and what we call certainty may be stability that has not yet been challenged. The universe, from this perspective, is not a cold machine nor a conscious being, but a process, continuously balancing itself at scales that dwarf comprehension. And the most unsettling thought is not that the universe is watching us, but that it does not need to. Every action, every structure, every collapse is already part of the system, contributing silently to patterns we may never fully understand. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what lies beyond the stars, but how much of the universe remains hidden simply because we are inside it. Being inside the system may be the very reason it is so difficult to recognize its full shape. Civilizations rise believing they are close to understanding reality, only to later discover that what they called fundamental laws were merely surface behaviors. On cosmic scales, knowledge does not arrive all at once. It accumulates slowly, constrained by biology, technology, and perspective. Even our most advanced instruments translate the universe into signals we can process, filtering reality through layers of limitation. What we see is not the universe as it is, but the universe as it allows itself to be seen. This raises an uncomfortable possibility that certain aspects of reality are not hidden by distance or energy, but by design, not intentional design, but structural incompatibility. Some processes may exist entirely outside the range of phenomena that conscious observers can ever directly detect. In that sense, ignorance is not temporary, but built in. The universe may permit observation only up to a certain depth, beyond which information dissolves into abstraction. Under this interpretation, mystery is not a failure of science, but a feature of existence. Large-scale structures may be stable precisely because they are partially unknowable, protected from interference by the limits of perception. Even intelligence itself could be constrained, emerging only in forms that cannot disrupt the broader balance. Advanced civilizations, if they arise elsewhere, may reach similar conclusions, mistaking the boundaries of their understanding for the edges of reality. This could explain the persistent silence of the cosmos, not as absence of life, but as convergence of limitation. Everyone sees far, but no one sees far enough. In such a universe, progress does not lead toward ultimate truth, but toward increasingly refined approximations, each one useful, yet incomplete. The danger lies not in questioning reality, but in assuming it has been fully decoded. History shows that certainty collapses faster than doubt, and cosmic history may follow the same pattern. Every model we build is a snapshot, accurate for a moment, obsolete the instant a deeper layer is revealed. From this perspective, the universe is not a puzzle meant to be solved, but a system meant to be navigated. Survival, stability, and continuity matter more than comprehension. Life adapts not by understanding everything, but by understanding enough. Perhaps that is the quiet rule governing all scales of existence. Not revelation, but balance. Not answers, but persistence. And if that is true, then the universe does not reward those who seek final explanations, but those who learn to exist within uncertainty. The stars continue their motion regardless of interpretation. Galaxies form, collide, and dissolve without acknowledgement. Time moves forward, or sideways, or not at all, depending on where you stand. Meaning, then, is not written into the fabric of space, but emerges locally, briefly, wherever complexity survives long enough to ask questions. And when those questions fade, the universe remains, unchanged, carrying forward patterns older than memory, and larger than thought. Larger patterns emerge when we stop asking what the universe is made of and start asking how it behaves over time. At that scale, matter becomes secondary, and relationships become everything. Distance loses meaning, replaced by influence. Events separated by billions of light-years may still belong to the same process, unfolding slowly across dimensions we can barely imagine. Cause and effect no longer feel linear, but distributed, as if the universe remembers previous states and adjusts accordingly. This memory would not resemble intention, but persistence. Patterns repeating because deviation proved unstable. That may explain why the universe appears so finely balanced, why constants fall within narrow ranges that allow complexity without collapse. Instead of being tuned for life, reality may simply discard what cannot endure. What survives is what remains visible. In this light, extinction is not failure, but filtration. Stars burn out, galaxies destabilize, civilizations erase themselves when balance is lost. The universe does not intervene. It allows time to do the work. Stability is rewarded with duration, not protection. Even consciousness may follow this rule, emerging briefly wherever complexity stabilizes, then dissolving back into simpler states. No observer ever sees the whole. Each witnesses a fragment and mistakes it for the total. The universe is never fully known from within, not because it is hidden, but because total understanding would require standing outside the system. And so existence continues, not toward revelation, but toward persistence. Structures collapse and reform. Nothing truly ends, it reorganizes. Life, thought, and meaning arise briefly, not as goals, but as consequences. The universe does not need to explain itself. It continues,